U.S. Department of Agriculture suggests simmering vegetables in soups and stews because the temperatures are lower and some of the vitamin will be saved in the broth. Better yet, microwave your vegetables or boil them in a sealed plastic bag. Oranges don't have to be orange to be good. Greenish oranges can be as ripe as orange ones, maybe even more so. The difference in color is due to the nighttime temperature before harvesting. If harvested in cooler temperatures, oranges become their familiar orange color. In warmer temperatures, the fruit will stay green. So next time you're shopping around for ripe oranges, look for fruit that is firm with skin that's smooth and free of soft spots. This is Rob Vaughn reporting for Health Newswire.
Next time on Health Matters, meet a 23-year-old man who learned about heart disease the hard way.
Next thing I know, I was laying in the emergency room, and the doctor's telling me I'm having a heart attack and Daddy has to put me in immediately for some surgery and stuff.
Learn how it's changed his lifestyle for the better, and find out how cholesterol-lowering drugs are helping prevent heart attacks. Next time on Health Matters. We hope our program has helped you understand more about how to fight cancer and what you can do to help win the war against cancer. I'm Anita Walker. Join us again next time because health matters.
Health Matters, Central Iowa's source for medical news and health information, was brought to you as a public service by Iowa Methodist Medical Center, committed to excellence in patient care.
Your attention, please. Metro Sales and Service has invited 6 of the biggest brand-name sewing machine manufacturers to bring you Iowa's largest ever sewing machine warehouse sale this weekend at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. See over 600 1992 Singer, Baby Lock, Viking, White, Elna, and New Home sewing machines and sergers at factory direct prices with up to 25-year warranties. Examples, a white heavy-duty zigzag machine is just $98. What a perfect Mother's Day gift. Iowa's largest ever sewing machine warehouse sale this Thursday through Sunday at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Doors open at 10 a.m. each day.
Taco John says, let us entertain you with a crisp, fresh, seasoned celebration of salad. Appearing at a Taco John's near you, a super taco salad for only $2.49. You'll savor the delicious blend of fresh ingredients and applaud this low price for a limited time only. Super taco salad in a bowl you can eat at a price you'll just love. Only $2.49, only at Taco John's.
Steve Oswald, TVA News Break, coming up in just a half hour from now. An eastern Iowa boy who turned up missing following a trip 11 months ago to a carnival has now been found dead. Further details in that story at 6. TVA8's Martin Augustine with all the details on what actually happened today at the Drake Relays. And a car connects with a number of landscape boulders near Pleasant Hill. Now this.
Hey, we jumped in and took the Holiday Sports Challenge.
Steve says we might actually see the sun tomorrow. See you at 6.
A big earthquake rocks Northern California and American casualties in the Peruvian drug war. This is the CBS Evening News. And this is Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Another earthquake rocked California today. The epicenter of this one actually out in the Pacific, about 35 miles southwest of Eureka in the northern part of the state. And it was a big one, hitting 6.9 on the Richter scale. Most of the injuries and the damage were in a string of small communities south of Eureka. Ron Allen is standing by in Los Angeles with the latest on all this. Ron?
Bob, it hit an area used to frequent earthquakes, but people there are telling us that this was something special, a powerful earthquake followed by several strong aftershocks. We're hearing reports of some minor injuries, a few buildings knocked down, a few roads closed, some bridges undermined. One of the hardest hit towns seems to be Ferndale, where a local merchant told us that many of the facades on the buildings in Main Street collapsed.
This one was the worst. We've been here 25 years. It's the worst I've ever been through. When we just started getting this little bit of vibration, and it just built and built and built.
The quake was felt over a wide area, as far south as San Francisco, as far north as Southern Oregon, as far east as Reno. The epicenter was out in the Pacific Ocean, a few miles north of the San Andreas Fault, but seismologists say today's quake is probably not connected to that major fault system, which many fear could produce the big one. Just 3 days ago, another major quake hit Southern California's desert, leaving crumbled buildings and stores in complete disarray. But today's quake apparently is not related.
It probably has nothing to do with our earthquake at all. It's too far away.
So this is neither a precursor or a follow-up?
It's probably an unrelated earthquake.
The quake released 30 times more energy than the desert quake earlier this week. Everyone in Eureka remembers the quake of 1980, which caused widespread damage, but now they're saying that this was a lot worse. We should emphasize that it takes a while to fully understand the impact of a quake and fully assess the damage, but it's been quite a week in California, and more aftershocks will probably come. Bob?
All right, thank you, Ron. Pentagon officials today flatly denied Peruvian assertions that a U.S. military cargo plane was off course when Peruvian fighter planes opened fire on it late yesterday just off the coast of Peru. The pilot managed to land the American plane, but 2 men on board were injured. A third man who was swept out a door of the plane is missing. Doug Tennell now with the latest on that.
The plane and crew were part of a highly secretive team of U.S. Special Forces and drug agents working with Peru's military in the cocaine fields of the upper Huallaga Valley, source of 70% of the world's coca leaf. Peruvian jets opened fire on the unarmed American plane over the Pacific, about 60 miles off Peru's coast. By the time it landed near the port town of Talara, 2 Americans were wounded and 1 was missing, apparently sucked out of a door over the sea after it had been riddled by machine gun fire. Peruvian officials claim the Americans failed to respond when challenged by the Peruvian pilots. The Pentagon says the cargo plane was on a, quote, normal counter-drug mission that had the approval of both the U.S. and Peruvian governments. Ironically, the American crew was in Peru on a mission to help the armed forces that opened fire on them. The American forces had been operating sophisticated radar and communication networks in the valley, but today's attack may signal a new and severe chill on this front of the drug war.
Peru's President Alberto Fujimori ordered the Peruvian Air Force to take over all the military bases in the valley 2 weeks ago. And according to reports reaching here, the Peruvian Air Force issued a whole new set of rules governing flights over the valley only a few hours before Friday's shooting incident occurred.
There is concern the incident may have been intentional to demonstrate that American planes are not accepted. Fujimori, who has seized almost dictatorial power in Peru, told CBS News earlier this year that he favored an economic, not a military campaign against Peru's drug traffickers.
We don't have to fight against things. It would be another new Vietnam that would be very dangerous, not only for Peru, for the United States.
Fujimori expressed regrets at the shooting incident and promised an investigation. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Miami.
Back in this country today brought the biggest turnout yet in the anti-abortion rallies being staged in Buffalo, New York, and there were 79 more arrests. It was the mayor of Buffalo who invited the protesters in, but as the demonstration has dragged on, it has become an expensive proposition for his city. Regina Blakely reports.
This is a tale of 2 cities. One is the Buffalo under siege by Operation Rescue.
Get out of the street!
Today's chilling rains couldn't deter the biggest crowd yet, but the clinics remained open, and women were able to keep their appointments. And this is the other Buffalo, everyday people trying to carry on as usual. A&J Distributors has been here for 42 years, but it's right across the street from an abortion clinic. And now the company's feeling the impact.
It's hurt business all week long. Our customers can't approach our driveway. They get rerouted.
Buffalo is a blue-collar town, predominantly Catholic. But a recent poll by the Buffalo News showed a majority of people favored choice. and don't welcome Operation Rescue's tactics.
They're not even from here. They're going to do this and then just go away and leave a bad taste, I think, in Buffalo.
The economy, the unemployment issues, jobs. That's what's important.
And Buffalo does have its problems. More than 9% of the people here are unemployed, and the city is struggling with an $18.5 million deficit. Now, at the mayor's invitation, Operation Rescue is just adding to the city's financial burdens. Police overtime is adding up. Some put it at $14,000 a day. And there may be hidden costs. Buffalo is grappling with what could be its worst murder wave ever. Critics question whether the real front line is being ignored. Operation Rescue will stay camped out on these streets for at least the next 2 weeks, so Buffalo will remain a battleground. The people of the city unwilling spectators in the war over abortion. Regina Blakely, CBS News, Buffalo.
And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, a new poll shows President Bush with his lowest approval rating ever, but still leading Bill Clinton. And the Cold War is laid to rest on a famous battlefield of World War II.
Introducing the new Jeep. With an all-new four-wheel drive system and exclusive standard driver's side airbag. No other vehicle gives you so much latitude.
Did I get that right?
That's perfect.
Back in 5, Stephanie?
When you're trying to eat right, days like this are a disaster.
Is this it?
Stephanie Powers talks about Kellogg's Nutri-Grain.
The only time I really control what I eat is at breakfast, and the whole grain in Kellogg's Nutri-Grain gives me a natural start. No sugar added, no preservatives, nothing fake. No matter what I eat later, at breakfast I call the shots.
Naturally good. Nutri-Grain, the natural place to start.
I used to take aspirin to relieve minor arthritis pain until my doctor told me 1 Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin and is gentler to my stomach. For my pain, I prefer Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Bad allergies?
Terrible. I need my Benadryl.
Dristan allergy has a decongestant. This Benadryl doesn't.
Well, then I definitely would try that. I feel fantastic. I can breathe through my nose. I don't need a tissue anymore.
New Dristan allergy, the face of relief today.
Well, the Pennsylvania primary is just 3 days away, and a new CBS News New York Times poll finds that President Bush's approval rating has slipped to a new low. The news is not much better for his Democratic rivals. Scott Pelley has more.
While President Bush took the day off at an exclusive country club, there is growing evidence he will carry a high handicap into the November election. Tonight's new CBS News New York Times poll shows half of voters now disapprove of the president's performance. The poll taken this week shows 73% dislike his handling of the economy, and almost half now disapprove of his foreign policy. Not since Jimmy Carter's hostage crisis has a president faced such disapproval.
The voters are as dissatisfied now as they were in 1980. They are just as concerned about the state of the economy and the state of the country, and that necessarily always works against incumbent presidents.
But voters appear to dislike the president's opponents even more. According to the poll, President Bush still beats Clinton by 10%. Clinton runs just ahead of potential candidate Ross Perot. At a Texas rally today, voters were signing petitions to get Perot on the ballot.
President Bush, that's like a burr under my saddle. We need to get rid of the old regime and get somebody in there that can change it.
Change is now a constant theme in the president's speeches. Words like revolution are cropping up more and more.
Our future depends on education reform, on our ability to revolutionize, literally reinvent our schools.
The question is, will the voters buy a reinvented president?
He's not going to change what he's been for over 3 years. He's not an activist. He is a status quo man.
The Congress has plenty to worry about, too. In the poll, half the voters said government would work better if all the members of the House and Senate and the President were thrown out and replaced. Bob?
Thank you, Scott. For our Washington Notebook tonight, Pennsylvania's Democratic Senator Harris Wofford is joining us from our Washington studio. It was his election last fall, of course. That was the first strong signal of the depth of voter discontent. Senator, thank you for joining us. Well, that's not much of a vote of confidence. I know you're a Bill Clinton man, but to hear those numbers come out, your governor in Pennsylvania said earlier this week that Democrats ought to, the delegates there in Pennsylvania ought to try to stay neutral. They didn't think Clinton could be elected. How do you feel about that?
Well, first, don't throw me out of the Senate too fast. I've just come and started the fight. Second, that poll that shows 10% gap still between Clinton and Bush. We've closed in the last 3 weeks in which the people of Pennsylvania have been able to hear Bill Clinton's major proposals on the economy, on education, on health care, on national service. They have closed that gap down. The last poll just came out yesterday was 4% gap. I think we are going to seize the day in Pennsylvania to send a message Tuesday that our eyes now are on that contest between Bush and Clinton, and that we think a political earthquake is needed in Washington, and that Bill Clinton is going to do it as John Kennedy did in 1960 and Franklin Roosevelt in 1932.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what Governor Casey was talking about earlier this week when he said the process now is producing a series of flawed candidates. Have you ever seen the kind of situation we have this political year?
Well, I think you may be old enough too, Bob, to remember even in the campaign that meant the most to me, John Kennedy's, which I was in the thick of, that right up to the convention eve, Eleanor Roosevelt was assaulting John Kennedy's character. President Truman was saying the country wasn't ready for a brash young man. The leaders of the party were yearning for Adlai Stevenson or Hubert Humphrey. Our party unites in July, and our governor is a great governor and a good Democrat, and you're going to see the Democratic Party unite around Clinton when he wins that nomination in the same way that it united for John Kennedy in 1960 and Franklin Roosevelt in 1932, who had the so-called character issue surrounding them throughout their political life. And I think people want change and know that Clinton is a kind of man that Kennedy and Roosevelt were, that can bring about change at a moment when the country just knows in their recession-weary bones that we need a change in Washington. At the top, you may want to change some members of Congress and the Senate, but most of all, we need new leadership in the President of the United States.
All right. Well, I will confirm that I am old enough to remember those elections and some that came before them, Senator. All right. We'll have more in a moment.
Everybody needs some money sometime.
To send money fast, call 1-800-CALL-CASH or come to any Western Union location.
Something in my heart just told me my son.
Western Union, fastest way to send money. Why Centrum Silver? Because you're over 50 and you're just hitting your stride. Centrum Silver vitamins. Because the latest scientific research about changing nutritional needs after 50 is built in. Centrum Silver. It's a great time to be silver.
An important message for patients taking Cardizem SR.
I need a refill on my Cardizem SR.
You may want to see your doctor before your next refill because there's a new Cardizem available. Cardizem CD.
What's the difference?
Cardizem CD should save you money, and it contains the same medication as Cardizem SR.
Can you give me Cardizem CD?
Only your doctor can change your prescription. Ask your doctor if new Cardizem CD is right for you.
Cardizem CD. Thanks. I'll ask my doctor.
They say our personality traits are formed at an early age. Presenting the 3.1-liter V6 Rodeo from Isuzu. The way we see it, it's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Why are all those members of Congress giving up and leaving? What's gone wrong in Washington? One of our questions this Sunday morning.
Afghan rebels have been fighting for this moment for years, the triumphant entry into a fallen capital. But with their common enemy gone now, rival rebel groups can turn on each other. And Barry Peterson has our report.
The Mujahedeen, who had fought their way to Kabul one valley at a time, traveled the last few miles in unaccustomed style aboard abandoned Soviet helicopters. They were met not with gunfire, but with cheers. The final act of a 14-year civil war, the final moment of the communist regime.
Our country will be Islamic society.
Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
Most government soldiers scurried back to their barracks. At the TV station, those soldiers still on duty greeted their new masters as if they were old friends. But as so often happens in Afghanistan, it wasn't as simple as all that. A second guerrilla group wanted the capital. There were skirmishes. Some were unlucky enough to be caught in the crossfire. The second group apparently gave up, and Kabul TV tonight broadcast a statement saying a new Islamic government was now in charge. Still, the bitter rivalries among the Mujahedeen factions run centuries deep, and if they flare up, the fighting among the new masters of Kabul will be as fierce and deadly as any seen here before. Barry Peterson, CBS News, London.
In the Mexican city of Guadalajara, officials face a deadline now to determine what caused explosions in the sewer system that killed at least 181 people. Cindy Kennard has our report.
The Mexican government promises it will announce the results of its investigation into the cause of the deadly blast tomorrow. Today, workers finished repairs on a leaking gasoline pipeline near the area devastated by Wednesday's massive explosion. The governor reportedly wants the state-owned oil company Pemex banned from Guadalajara, and even some Pemex workers seem to think their employer may be to blame. If you ask me, yes, I'd say it's Pemex, he says. Demolition has begun. Some damaged buildings have been ordered torn down despite pleas from residents worried that the heavy equipment could crush survivors still hidden in the debris.
The revised death toll now stands at just over 180, and there is no way to tell how many more are still missing. In a city reeling from a series of explosions which many here think could have been prevented.
Dormitories at Guadalajara University now serve as home for about 400 of the city's 15,000 homeless. This mother of 8 says her oldest son pulled his brothers and sisters from the wreckage of their house. The youngest child remembers. The man coordinating government assistance to the refugees is amazed at their determination. They want to leave the shelters immediately, he says, to start rebuilding their lives. Hoping to take their minds off the tragedy, volunteers are providing distractions for the children, many of whom lost family and friends. It may help avert long-term psychological damage. But for the adults, there is no escape. What has happened here will be permanently etched in their minds. Cindy Kennard, CBS News, Guadalajara.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shreds, shoot some salad, salad shooter.
Presto Salad Shooter Slicer Shredder. Point and shoot right where you want. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, store anywhere. Original, cordless, and professional salad shooter.
Everyone has a dream, a vision deep inside.
With all the mutual funds out there, I needed an easy way to help me compare them.
We make it easier to follow your own lead.
With Schwab's free mutual funds performance guide, I can compare track records on over 500 funds.
Always there to give you just the help you need.
Help yourself at Schwab today.
Red Lobster may have gone too far this time. A full pound of tempting shrimp overflowing your plate. Red Lobster's never offered you, so much on one plate. 10 grilled shrimp, 15 butterfly, 11 scampi. A full pound of our biggest and best shrimp for a limited time. So much shrimp with all the extras, including a doggy bag.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
When you go out for groceries only twice a year, you think harder about what you buy. You check the facts. And only one leading cereal, Cheerios, is low in sugar and a good source of fiber and made from whole grain oats. So choose smart. Choose Cheerios.
Getting back to the Pennsylvania primary, voters there will have a chance this Tuesday to decide what they think of the so-called character questions that have been dogging Bill Clinton. That's the subject of Bruce Morton's commentary.
Slick Willie Clinton. Or at least that's the label, and it's hard to lose a label once you have one. The polls show a lot of Americans don't think Clinton is very trustworthy, but I'll bet that many of them press to say, well, I couldn't be specific. They just remember seeing that label over and over again in the newspaper, on TV. There are really only two charges against Clinton. Did he lie about not having an affair with Jennifer with a G Flowers, and or about dodging the draft? On the Flowers front, Clinton says he did have marital troubles in the past, denies that she was one of them, and adds that things are fine now. Not a bad answer for a grown-up. Voters don't need to know every gasp of passion in his life. As for the draft, he says he didn't dodge. My own feeling is that he'd have done better to be more candid earlier this year about his anti-war past than he was, but the voters will decide. As a presidential candidate, George Bush denounced Ronald Reagan's economics as voodoo. Then, as Reagan's running mate, hugged voodoo economics hard. Changed his position on abortion for the same reason. And of course, Bush said, read my lips, and then welched on his no new taxes pledge. Does that make George Bush slick? My point is, vote on facts, on specifics, not on the labels we reporters put in newspaper headlines and television spots. Be for Bush or Clinton or whomever for a reason. It puts an awful burden on a candidate when a voter simply snarls at him, prove you're not tricky. Prove you're not slick. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Lava continues to flow tonight from Sicily's Mount Etna, but for now at least, a town on the volcano slope has been given a reprieve. Bert Quint has more on that.
Volcano fighters and frightened villagers breathed easier today as lava poured harmlessly from a new fissure on Mount Etna. By spreading laterally along this uninhabited patch of the mountain, the flow of incandescent rock slowed its rush toward Zafirana, a community of 7,000 people about a half-mile away. Experts weren't sure whether the opening of the new hole was the result of intense work by American Marines and Italian demolitions teams or just good luck. But they said it could relieve the pressure on Zafirana for weeks. Earlier this week, U.S. helicopters dropped more than 91 tons of concrete blocks in and around the opening of the river of lava that has been bursting from the bowels of the earth since last December. The plan was to clog the flow and force the lava to disperse and cool. Controlled explosions along the mountainside were intended to block the lava's path and knock some of the concrete blocks into the hole. But defying all obstacles, the lava kept moving. Now it's dispersing through the new fissure. But this Sicilian mountain has been causing trouble for a long time, with some eruptions lasting more than a year. And as one villager whose orchard has been hit by this flow put it, Etna isn't an animal that can be tamed. Bert Quint, CBS News, Rome.
Point of fact, it takes the average person an average of 20 keystrokes to do an average task with their PC. Counterpoint. You can do it with just a point and click with Microsoft Windows.
Morning breath.
As soon as I have my coffee, it's all gone.
Whether you admit it or not, it's a problem.
Okay, I have morning breath, but it doesn't bother anyone.
Don't be so sure.
Mine's not so bad.
Morning breath's not as bad as you think. It's worse. So get Scope. Its two powerful ingredients kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Was my morning breath really that bad?
There's no denying morning breath, so save your breath with Scope.
In art, taste is subjective, but in life, good taste is well defined. Fancy Feast gourmet cat food, exceptionally moist and delicious. Fancy Feast. Good taste is easy to recognize.
Your dentist told you about plaque, but you didn't listen. You need the new Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover. It removes plaque just like your dentist wants you to.
That shelf should hold now, Doc.
The Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover.
Microsoft Excel can take any spreadsheet figure and easily turn it into a beautiful fact. All you do is point and click. Microsoft Excel, the spreadsheet for Windows.
A ceremony south of Berlin today marked one of the final chapters of World War II and celebrated the end of the Cold War that followed. Martha Teichner was there.
Today, in a graveyard in what used to be the East German town of Torgau, there was a memorial to Joe Pulowski, whose dream of peace and unity has finally come true. Pulowski was a Chicago cab driver who spent his life trying to rekindle the spirit of the event he witnessed here as a young American private in 1945.
On April 25th, the 1st United States Army and the 1st Ukrainian Army meet at the River Elbe.
It was actually Lieutenant Bill Robertson who crawled halfway across Torgau's bombed-out bridge across the Elbe and faced his Soviet counterpart, Lieutenant Alexander Silvashka. The meeting meant the end of World War II in Europe, but the beginning of the divided Germany, the Cold War. Many times the two men have returned to Torgau along with other old soldiers, Soviet, American, and German.
We made it again.
The memory of hope brought them back. But in the past, the Cold War conspired against them.
So many things have changed in the world now that means hope for everybody. And I think it's the best world we've had for a long, long time.
Torgau's mayor summed it up. For 47 years, he said, the Elbe had to run down to the sea before the Americans, the Russians, and the Germans could all meet together down by the riverside. With Germany reunited and the Cold War over, today what had been a somber, symbolic ritual became a riotous celebration. When Bill Robertson crossed the bridge this time with Joe Pulowski's daughter, he met Russian soldiers because the Soviet army no longer exists. For the first time, the United States government was able to take part officially in what is now a politically acceptable occasion. Americans and Russians happily played Dixieland together down by the riverside. Torgau hopes it will not be the end of the story, but the beginning of a new and better chapter, the promise of that day in 1945, fulfilled. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Torgau.
And we've just received the first pictures of the earthquake in Northern California. What we have here is pictures of the cleanup in Eureka, California, at a grocery store there. This quake hit 6.9 on the Richter scale. There have been some injuries and considerable damage in that Northern California area. Well, that's our report for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow on Face the Nation when our guest will be Ross Perot. Until then, good evening.
Experience CBS News. This is CBS.
Coming up next on the TV8 News Live at 6, the strange story of a former Iowa boy found dead after disappearing from a New York theme park.
Good news for Newton residents and their health care. And TV8's Martin Augustine with Drake Relay's festivities.
Today was the carbon copy of yesterday, but tomorrow won't be a carbon copy of today. I'll explain before you.
And Jeff Johnson live at Drake Stadium with relay highlights, all next in sports.
So stay with us. TV8 News is next.
Hi, my name's Mike Spurl. I used to have cancer. A few years ago, I was on TV for Iowa Methodist Medical Center.
They smiled when things went well. They shared tears with us when things didn't go well.
This time, I'd like to say thanks to the people at Iowa Methodist and to remind everybody that I'm still here, better than ever. And so is the Cancer Center at Iowa Methodist.
The new John Stoddard Cancer Center at Iowa Methodist. We're in this fight together.
What kind of bed do kids want?
Bunk bed! A water bed! A princess canopy bed! A day bed!
You'll find all those and more at the grand opening of Kids Beds. Kids Beds has the lowest prices on beds for every kid. Bunk beds start at just $99.99.
Cool!
Choose from a great selection of day beds as low as $45.99.
Incredible!
It's the grand opening of
Kids Beds!
Kids Beds, Merle Hay Road at Douglas, next to Big Sur Waterbeds.
Thank you for watching KCCI, TV8 in Des Moines. And now from TV8, Iowa's news leader, Steve Oswald, Sarah Jarvis, Steve Carlin with weather, and Jeff Johnson sports. This is TV8 News, live at 6.
Good evening, and thanks for being with us. A mystery that began nearly a year ago has been solved with the discovery of the body of a 5-year-old Iowa boy.
Little Timothy Wiltsey disappeared while visiting a New Jersey carnival with his mother last May. Wiltsey was buying a soft drink at the carnival outside of the sight of his mother when he disappeared. The body was discovered in Edison, New York, in an industrial park where the boy's shoe had been discovered earlier. Investigators found the skeletal remains after deciding to research the area. They are treating the death as a homicide, and they've conducted tests now to make sure the body is that of Timothy Wiltsey.
This morning, we were able to secure x-rays of Timothy Wiltsey's teeth and match those up. And that pretty much confirmed that this is, in fact, Timothy Wiltsey. We have no doubt.
The child's mother moved to New Jersey about 4 years ago after becoming separated from her husband. But Timothy Wiltsey's father continues to live in Walker, Iowa.
It's hard. You don't know what to think. Just makes you sick. You know, how would you feel if your kid was taken and you're never going to see him again?
Investigators say that they don't know how soon the boy was killed after being abducted from the New Jersey Carnival on May 25th of last year. The investigation is continuing.
Back here, authorities in Dallas County are trying to figure out what caused a fatal accident near Perry early this morning. 26-year-old Cassandra Whitfield of Perry died after colliding head-on with a pickup truck on Highway 141. The accident happened about 3 o'clock this morning. Authorities say it appears one of the vehicles crossed the center line, but it's not clear which one. The 20-year-old pickup driver was treated and released. And a 28-year-old man is in serious condition after he lost control of his car last night near Pleasant Hill. Michael Tassin of Des Moines was injured when his pickup slammed into some very large landscaping rocks in the yard of a nearby home. Tassin was southbound on Northeast 64th when the accident occurred, and investigators aren't sure why he lost control of his pickup. They're continuing their investigation.
And a Des Moines woman is also in serious condition following an assault last night. That incident happened here in the parking lot of Opie's Bar at 23rd and Ingersoll in Des Moines. Investigators say they believe that 23-year-old Linda Jeffries of 2808 Bedoin was repeatedly struck in the face by 28-year-old Michael Rooney of Des Moines. Rooney of 620 Southwest McKinley has been charged with assault with intent to inflict serious injury in this case. Investigators say they're not sure what started the incident.
Well, strong community support, new medical equipment, and a bond issue are all helping to attract doctors to the Schieffer Medical Center in Newton. TV8's Michelle Parker has this update on plans to modernize the hospital.
Dr. Gary Richardson joined the staff of Schieffer Medical Center in Newton in January. Already he's performed a number of surgeries using laparoscopic techniques. This allows Richardson to make smaller incisions in the patient than he would using the traditional method. Recovery time is also dramatically shorter. The laparoscopic equipment, and more importantly, the passage last year of a $3.3 million bond issue to renovate and modernize the hospital, attracted Richardson to Schieffer.
The town is behind the hospital. When they had the bond issue for the new addition, I believe it was something like 72%, which is unusual in this day and age of higher taxes, etc.
Work recently began on the modernization project. It will include construction of a new emergency room entrance, a new surgical suite, and obstetrics area. Also, right now, emergency helicopters must land on the street in front of the hospital. The project calls for construction of a heliport. Newton, like other rural communities, has had its problems in attracting physicians, but the renovation project and strong community effort and fundraisers are changing that situation.
We are finding doctors calling us
without our initiatives, but they're calling us and asking what are the opportunities in Newton, because we're hearing that the community really is supportive of our medical communities.
People have been very, very generous to the hospital. They realize it's a good cause, so they're willing to help us out.
The modernization project is scheduled to be finished by August 1993. Michelle Parker, TV8 News.
Well, the 83rd edition of the Drake Relays is now officially on the books with a few records broken and everybody involved taking home some great memories. TV8's Martin Augustine tried to capture the flavor of the event today and found one common theme.
It seems normal enough. Marching bands leading the Drake Relays parade. Something here just doesn't seem right. Maybe it's the hoods, the blankets, those stocking hats, or maybe that bulldog sweater.
It is so cold today, let me tell you.
The weather. An extra brisk wind whips down the parade route, making parade goers dress more like football fans. That is, except for those taking shelter in the skywalk.
It's really cold out there. Really cold. It's nice and warm up here.
And hats off to the bagpipe corps. Imagine wearing a kilt today. Near the parade route, marathon runners finish their 26-mile jaunt. A supreme test of endurance in the cold winds, right? Well, that depends on who you talk to.
It's a little bit cool and a little bit windy, but it's not too bad.
The weather certainly isn't improving much once you get to Drake Stadium. The Drake Relays fans, well, they prove to be a hardy bunch. Relays fans always pack the stands, cheering on winners regardless of where they're from.
Yep, she's gonna get it.
Gloves and parkas may muffle the applause, but the enthusiasm remains, as long as you're prepared for any kind of weather. Like Relays veteran Mike Keller.
It's normal. It's just as much fun with this kind of weather as with sun, so we really don't mind at all.
And perhaps it's that love of the relays that fuels and warms the athletes, pushing them across the finish line toward medals and records. Well, that and layers of warm-ups, some blankets, and very, very deep pockets. Martin Augustine, TV8 News.
So that old four-letter word coming back to haunt us again, it was cold out there.
We won't hold you responsible, Steve.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's very nice of you. Let's take a look at the forecast. We don't want to talk about today. Let's talk about tomorrow. The weather beacon is on red. It'll be a bit warmer. Could see some morning clouds and maybe some afternoon sun, and that certainly is good news. I'll have more on the forecast a little bit later on in the newscast.
Okay, thanks a lot, Steve. And still to come on the TV8 News Live at 6, Earth Day in Practice will take you to a Greenwood Park cleanup.
And our John Pascuzzi with the animated film Fern Gully. Stick around and see what he thinks of it. It's next.
I want to show you all the changes in the 92 Ford and Chevy trucks. F-150 got more aerodynamic. It got more convenient, and it got more comfortable. The Chevy just got older. Ford F-150. Prepare to be impressed.
And right now, you can get a Ford F-150 for under $10,900. That's less than $10,900 to drive America's favorite full-size truck 15 years running. But it's only for a limited time, so see your Ford dealer today and prepare to be impressed.
The American car buyer can choose from over 800 car and truck models. 800. Your Quality Buick dealer is proud to report that IntelliChoice, a major independent rating service, has named the Buick Park Avenue sedan the best overall American car value.
Now you can lease your new Park Avenue for only $399 a month, or choose up to $1,000 cash back or special finance rates when you buy.
Make Park Avenue your choice. See your nearest Quality Buick dealer today.
How will America react to our new spam light? We expect the response to be favorable. After all, America loves our regular Spam luncheon meat. And with our new Spam Light, you get the same great taste with 25% less fat and sodium. So, America, meet the new Spam. Our taste has been famous for years. Now, finally, our name's up in light.
Tonight's TV8 News, live at 6, is being simulcast on KELR Radio in Sheraton, 105 on your FM dial.
About 50 Girl Scouts braved today's chilly temperatures to clean up Greenwood Park. The Walnut Creek Service Unit of Girl Scouts spent the afternoon raking leaves and scraping paint at Greenwood Park's Sylvan Outdoor Theater. Girl Scouts and adult volunteers are working in conjunction with the City of Des Moines to beautify the city's parks, and they're getting in tune with keeping the world clean.
It's fun.
Why is it fun?
Well, it's fun to help the
world and get it cleaned up.
In addition, the Girl Scouts planted flowers and installed flagpole holders. It's all part of Earth Day projects.
Spring cleaning also inspired folks to get their old automobile batteries out of their garages today. A lot of those batteries ended up here at the Battery Warehouse on East University. The battery recycling drive today allowed folks to drop off their old car and truck batteries. 364 batteries in all were brought in here. From the warehouse, they'll go on to a smelter in Forest City, Missouri. This is the first lead-acid battery recycling drive of the year. The Battery Warehouse, another one is planned, but a date has not yet been set.
Well, there was a lot of pounding going on in the Des Moines Urbis campus of Des Moines today. These are the Tenryo Daiko drummers from Japan. I hope I pronounced that right. They're in Des Moines with part of an exchange of the Japanese American Society. Okay, you guys, calm down. 17 drummers are taking part playing traditional Japanese music. Drummers were supposed to perform at the Roosevelt High School, but the big drum was so big it wouldn't fit through the high school doors. Concert goers, they enjoyed the music anyway. Pretty neat.
Yes, the Tenryo Daiko drummers from Japan. See them soon at a record store near you. Okay.
Yes, well, another animated movie is banging into theaters, hoping to jump on the excess of Beauty and the Beast.
That's right. This new movie is called Fern Gully. Its message is perfectly timed with Earth Day. Here's John Pascuzzi now with his review.
The tremendous box office success of Beauty and the Beast at nearly $130 million and still counting has brought out the pen and ink drawings at just about every major studio. Now, the latest to try to cash in on